Pick a move in the ring. You can hit me with the words you fling.
I got some quotes here I'll read out. Because just to recap, yeah, obviously they've been beefing all week about fighter pay. Jones wants more money to go up to heavyweight to fight Ngannou, right? Dana White's claiming he asked for an absurd amount of money, Deontay Wilder money, 30 million. And then Jones accused Dana White of lying, and he said, release me from my contract. But anyway, Dana's had another chance to sound off on Jon Jones, and he says, who do you believe? It's up to you guys. What the F would I lie for? What would I gain if I lied for it? What do I gain? Obviously, he's fired up right now. He had a great talk with Hunter. That's Hunter Campbell, my lawyer. They had a good talk yesterday. It is what it is. I could care less, to be honest with you. They had a good talk. Those guys are tight. Jon Jones and I have always had this. I'm always looking at what Jon Jones could have been. He could have been the LeBron of this sport. He could literally have been that big. The stuff that he's been through to show up and basically demand $15 million or $20 million or $30 million, it's crazy. He can do whatever he wants to do. He can sit out. He can fight. He can do whatever. Jon Jones can say whatever he wants publicly. It's his God-given right in America. And when he's ready to fight, he can. Being the greatest of all time doesn't mean you get $30 million being able to sell. Jon Jones has done a lot of things to himself. He's saying in one of his tweets that I tarnished his reputation. I tarnished you? You've done a very good job of tarnishing you. I haven't done that. And Hunter told him, I'll walk you through the numbers, he said. I don't give an F what the numbers are. I want what I want, and that's it. That's not how life works. Why don't you fly back and tell your boss F what your company makes? This is what I want. You're going to give it to me and see how that works for you. Well, yeah, it's this he said, she said, isn't it really at this point? Who do you believe?
I've never been a big Jon Jones fan because of what he does outside. But if this actually gets fighters more pay, I want to see fighters get paid. I want to see them make a better living. I want to see the fighters at the bottom looked after more than the fighters at the top. But as I did say earlier, 18% of the revenue they estimated, that was at the set time of the sale to Endeavour, went to athletes. If you compare that to the 50%, I think NBA is around 40%. I think the Premier League in England's about a third goes to players. So it is far less than a lot of other sports leagues. And I mean, they don't have a union. And John, you know, in Korea, if you start a company in Korea, I think once you have 2 employees, they have the right to a union. I mean, we're going into a real myriad of issues here. But yeah, I think Jon Jones is a star. I think he's great. And I think he does have some really, really valid points.
Dana White, he said a lot of things in that post-fight press conference that rang true. Everything he's saying is true. That Jon Jones, he tarnished himself enough. He could have been the LeBron James of the sport, and all those outside distractions and those criminal violations, it destroyed any like power that he had, extra power, let's say. Extra power, because he does perform inside the cage. He does promote the fights, and he does bring in. But does he bring in $30 million worth? I don't know. But I don't even know if that's really the number that he was asking for. Because they're saying, you know, like Nick was saying, he said, she said. They're just going back and forth in the media. But one thing's very clear, that Dana White has so much training, media training, than Jon Jones does, and is very relevant here.
Yeah, and can I just say, he can argue about Jon Jones tarnishing his image all as he likes, but we all know Dana White's love child, his Irish love child, who can show up with a dolly in New York. He gets paid. You know, Conor has tarnished his image, hitting men in pubs. So, you know, as we've seen with Dana White, he is a bit of a megalomaniac, and he makes one rule for certain fighters and one rule for another. We've seen it over and over again. If he likes you, he'll pay you. If he doesn't like you, he won't pay you. And you know, is that what a reasonable CEO does in most companies? No. But this is Dana White. This is the UFC wearing a bit more of a land of Trumpian bombast than a Bill Gates, for say.
I think, make no doubt about it, Jon Jones deserves Deontay Wilder money.
Yep.
And as Dana says, he is the GOAT. And there's no debate about that. I was very relieved when you said Dana and Love Child. I thought you were talking about something else. I was very scared there to edit this video. And we'd get sued or something. Okay. You mean McGregor? Yes. Conor seems to get away with a lot of things.
Yeah.
But Conor brings in more money. It's not like Jon Jones doesn't bring in any money, though. John, does he? Because he's still a big draw himself. He's probably the third biggest draw the UFC has, maybe behind Conor and Khabib.
Yeah, he's a top 5 draw, and when you're in that top 5, you should be getting paid a lot of money. Doesn't really matter who you are on that list. It's aside from McGregor, it seems like it's very clear that whatever McGregor does, it's gold, and they're gonna make money. The UFC's in the McGregor business. The other fighters like Habib and Jon Jones and Israel Adesanya, yes, they like to be in business with them, but the UFC is more in control. It almost seems like McGregor is on an even playing field with the UFC, and that's what's the separation there. And that's what Jon Jones, I feel like Jon Jones that he went into the negotiations thinking that I'm going to get McGregor type of money. And if he could get it, he should try to get it. You know what I mean? Even though the UFC is not going to play games, but I'm pretty sure at the end of this, when they start to negotiate a little bit more and further into it, Jon Jones is gonna get a pretty good chunk of change, probably more than what he was normally getting out of it, and it all works out for him. I feel like I'm optimistic about it, and it's gonna be helpful for the next generation that comes along and wants to argue for more pay.
Yeah,
you can't see Jon Jones potentially leaving, can you? I mean, he said, "I'm sure there's a promoter somewhere that will pay what I want." Would old Chatri himself bring John into one championship? And it's a hard sell, isn't it, if you're going for respect, honor, role model stuff for Jon Jones? As great a fighter he is, he's got a lot of baggage outside the cage, right?
I mean, it's not even just one championship. KSW would probably pay good money for him, because people do have to remember KSW over in Poland, they get 40, 50,000. They sell out football stadiums. I mean, Rising could afford to pay. How much did they pay Mayweather for his exhibition fight? Was that $9 million?
Yeah.
And Jon Jones is getting paid $5 million by the UFC. So he's maybe not as big as Mayweather, but I mean, Rising's there, One's there, Bellator's there, and I could see any organization offer him $10 million, even if it was just a one fight contract, one and done, and go on to the next one and take their money. But yeah, leverage yourself, try and get as much money, and hopefully it benefits the fighters for generations to come.
But he has, I presume, a contract already, so he'd have to be released from that. Would it have to be something like we saw with Demetrius Johnson and Ben Askren, a trade? And if so, is there anyone out there the UFC could get that would compensate for Jon Jones?
Who would they trade for Jon Jones? There's nobody out there, It would be like a package deal. You'd have to give them like 5 fighters, and they have to be worth the amount of Jon Jones in money.
Yeah, it would have to be like, you'd have to go to like Bellator and take like their top 3 welterweights and their top 3 middleweights for it to be worth something. You'd have to take a huge amount of fighters, which you don't want to really lose in any organization. And it would make any organization that did that look a bit like a mockery.
Is there a case to say maybe Dana White just wants to be done with Jon because of all the things he mentioned in that? He's caused a lot of controversy. He's brought a lot of issues. Dana's had to put out a lot of fires. Is that something you would weigh up? Maybe, Jon Jones, just, all right, you go and do your thing somewhere else.
Nah, Jon Jones is a cash cow for the UFC. Why would they get rid of him? They have him locked in probably some ridiculous fight contract that he could probably never get out of unless he gives the UFC money. I think that's the only way that he would be able to get out of his contract, if somebody forked over the amount that the UFC is willing to take to give him the release. But that would probably never ever happen. Jon Jones is just saying, he's just peacocking, he's just saying like, release me. We've seen other fighters do that before too. Didn't McGregor do that one time in the past? Like, I want to take off, I'm not coming back, and basically saying, release me, I don't want to be a part of the organization. Jon Jones is just doing the same thing. It's fun to watch and see how it plays out. Jon Jones, we could fantasize of him being, inside of Saitama Super Arena, fighting some giant pro wrestler for $9 million. And I actually wouldn't mind seeing that. But
see Jon Jones fight more than anything. I'd love to see him fight Fedor.
Yeah.
I just love to fight Fedor personally. It would just be a great fight. I mean, Fedor destroyed Chael much faster than Jon Jones did. So that's an argument to build that fight up. But yeah, and to all the listeners out there, there's one thing I want to say is when Dana White says he's in the fight business, no, he's not. He's in the making money business. That's what he's there to do first and foremost. He's not there to give us the best fights. That's why we have money fights. Money always comes first. This is a business that does fights, not the fight business. It's a business that does fights.
And also in the fight business, you need controversy. It's chaotic. You're never gonna get what is it? A church boy fighting for you, someone that's super perfect. It's very rare when a GSP comes along, and even GSP had his little bumps along the way. But most guys are typically going to be like Jon Jones. They're going to be like Conor McGregor. They're going to be like Jorge Masvidal. They're not going to be perfect. They're going to come from not so great backgrounds, and you're always going to have to put out the flames once in a while. But I don't think Dana really worries about that. I think Dana, whenever there are some flames, it's like, oh, this is a way for me to promote it even better. Like they used the footage of Conor throwing that dolly into the bus. If he was more about like not using the negativity, he wouldn't have used it, but he used it to promote the fight. So like Chris says, it's the making money business, which is the fight business.
Yeah.
Could you see, Chris, John's people getting a call from Chatri, or is this too much of a sell?
I think it's too hard. I think it's too hard to see.
If you want to break into the US, you'll want, they still want to do this show in America. What bigger way to make a splash than to make a marquee signing like that? Just give him whatever he wants. They seem to have money from somewhere.
We'd have to know really first how many fights he's got left on his contract. I mean, if he's on one of those ridiculous 11 fights, I don't think we're going to see it get paid out. If it was maybe 5 fights left, you could probably buy that out for a decent amount of money. But yeah, it's always possible.
Well, they could do a cool redemption story with John as well. Like, oh yeah, I used to be a bad boy, but now I've left the UFC. I'm embracing the honor and the respect, the integrity, whatever the other two are.
I'm living clean. I'm not drinking. I'm not partying. Yeah.
Under the guidance of Chatri, I found myself. That'd be cool. I don't think they got anyone.
He could be on the season of The Apprentice, later this year.
Yeah, but I mean, who could he fight there realistically? I guess he could fight Brandon Vera, and he could fight
rematch.
Yeah, I know. And it's pretty shallow, those top divisions, right?
Yeah, it is. But I mean, he could fight Brandon Vera and Anglar and become double champ, Grand Prix style, 2 fights in one night. I mean, I think Jon Jones is a wild man. I mean, that's why I always said I'd love to see him in Rise and get him for a 3-fight contract and just have those 3 fights on the New Year's Eve Grand Prix and go on to the next organization.
Right, yeah, we can fantasize all we want about that, but it ain't gonna happen anyway.